All right, what's up, everybody? So, as you guys have probably already read by the title, yes, I have sold off my Apollo Twin, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about why I sold it and what I ended up replacing it with. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump straight into the video. So, yeah, guys, with only a couple months of use on this thing, I ended up selling my Apollo Twin. A lot of you guys are going to be looking at me like I'm crazy, and to be honest, the Apollo Twin is not a bad audio interface. I actually really like the Apollo Twin. My only problem that I had with it is that you can't bypass the preamps on it. The issue with that is that you're going to start getting some coloration from the preamps. So if you're using external gear, you're going to be getting some coloration from the audio interface preamps. And really, if you're using external gear, you want to be getting coloration coming from the external gear and not necessarily the converter, because at this point, this is your converter. So I didn't like the fact that I wasn't getting a true sound that I should have been getting with just using my external gear. So I ended up putting this thing up for sale. And not to mention, this thing is super expensive, and what I ended up replacing it with is much cheaper, and especially what I ended up paying, it is substantially cheaper. So I ended up having some leftover money from this thing that I can use to put towards other pieces of gear, stuff to improve my setup, so forth. So for me, it wasn't that the audio interface is bad. I actually really like the Apollo Twin, as I mentioned. I mean, with this audio interface, it still sounds absolutely amazing to the point where you really don't need to be using Unison technology or the plugins that they give you. You could just plug your microphone straight into this audio interface and get great quality. But for me, since I use external gear, my main preamp that I use is an Avalon 737. I wanted to get a sound that is true to what I should be getting, and since this doesn't bypass your preamps in it, you're going to be getting a slight bit of coloration. It's arguable whether or not you'll actually be able to hear that, but for me, it's like those kind of things are always in the back of my head. I'm always thinking about that, and it's like, if I could sell this thing off and get an audio interface that's going to make more sense for my setup and especially cost me less money, at that point, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to be using what's going to be better for my setup. So that's basically the main reason why I sold this audio interface. I didn't like the fact that I can't bypass the preamps, and at the same time, it's just super expensive to get into all their plugins, which, in my opinion, if you're buying a universal audio interface, you should be buying it because you want to take advantage of like the Unison technology and all the plugins that Universal Audio makes. So in my opinion, if you are looking to use all their plugins, then yes, these audio interfaces are absolutely amazing and worth it. But if you plan on using external gear, it makes no sense. Just buy what I'm about to mention here. This is the audio interface I ended up opting out for, and then run that with your external gear because you can bypass the preamps and it's going to still sound really, really good. And it's going to cost substantially less than spending, I think I spent like $900 on this. It was insane. The audio interface that I ended up switching out for was the Audient ID22, and from what I found, this is like the only audio interface that is sub $1,000 that allows you to bypass the preamps. At least that's what I found. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but I'm pretty sure it is. I think that this is like the only audio interface that is sub $1,000 that allows you to bypass the preamps. That's kind of weird, actually. You would think that that would be more of a standard for, audio interfaces sub $1,000. But anyhow, this is the one that I found that got a lot of great reviews, and a lot of people that said if you're going to be using external preamps, use an Audient ID22. This is a really reputable brand. A lot of the guys that I watch actually use Audient interfaces, so I ended up going with an Audient ID22, and especially I went with this one because I found it on Reverb from this guy that was near me, and he was selling for $300. And it was basically brand new. From what he told me, he only used it a couple times and then realized that it was way more than what he needed, so he ended up buying an ID4, I believe. So I ended up getting a practically brand new ID22 for like $300. And I'm not gonna lie, there was a learning curve with it. It was kind of confusing to figure out how to use their little software, but I got the hang of it now. I pretty much know it, and that's the one thing that I'm gonna give to the Apollo, is this thing is so user-friendly and simple to use. Honestly, I would say this is kind of like the Apple. If we're going to start comparing Apple and Android, this is kind of like the Apple of the audio interfaces, whereas this Audient was more so a Android from at least my experience with it. And so far, I am absolutely in love with the quality. I actually think this sounds much, much better than on my Apollo Twin. So I spent less money. I'm gonna end up selling this, getting back a pretty good amount of money that I can use to either upgrade my setup, or I was thinking maybe buying some stuff to build some foam panels and kind of working on the acoustics in this room. But I still get amazing quality for a very, very affordable price using the Audient. So like I said, guys, this is like the only audio interface that I could find that's sub $1,000 that I can bypass the preamps. It's, now that I got the hang of it, it's super easy to work with. It has a ton of outputs, so I can route all my tracks to different pieces of my outboard gear. It's just super, super convenient for me. It actually is perfect for what I am doing right now. So it's an upgrade for me, but for some of you guys, if you're not using outboard gear, you probably would benefit from using the Apollo, because you can use all the plugins in Unison technology in real time. So I mean, it kind of depends what your situation is. For me, since I use all outboard gear, I absolutely love my Avalon. I'm going to try to get the most accurate sound that I can, and when you're doing that, you want an audio interface that can bypass the preamp. So yeah, that is the audio interface that I ended up swapping out for. I know if I make videos in the future and I'm showing off a different audio interface and you guys don't see my Apollo, some of you guys are gonna question what happened to the Apollo. And also, you know, I feel like a lot of people, they just hear, oh, buy the Apollo, buy the Apollo. This is the best audio interface that you can buy. And I'm not knocking it. It's not a bad audio interface, but I definitely think that there are some that are better for the situation that you might be in. Yeah, guys, I'm gonna end it here. This is the old audio interface. This is the new one, and I'm loving it so far. So I'm definitely gonna be making some videos with this thing and kind of demoing it and showing you guys this thing is awesome. You can find right now on Reverb for like probably sub $400 this audio interface, and get yourself an external preamp and start recording some awesome quality music, voiceovers, whatever that might be. So yeah, guys, that is why I got rid of my Apollo and switched over to the new Audient ID22. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at that. Stay tuned, guys, because I think later this week I'm going to release a video where I demo all of my outboard gear and show you guys how I process rap vocals. And of course, the same can be applied to plugins. So I'll drop some gems for you guys, help you guys out, show you guys some techniques and ways to improve your vocals with some very simple steps. So stay tuned for that video, guys, but I think that's gonna wrap it up. So I'll see you guys all in my next video. So peace out, everybody.